The stars looked different from inside the Galactic Council research vessel Harmony's Light, but Zexthara had seen many different skies in his 40 years as a diplomat. Today felt special, though, because today he would meet humans for the first time. The tall, blue-skinned alien adjusted his formal robes and checked his translation device one more time. Everything had to be perfect for this first official meeting between his people and the newest members of the galactic community. Zexthara walked through the long corridors of his ship toward the docking bay where the human vessel would arrive soon. His assistant Kliktar followed behind him on 6 insect-like legs, making soft clicking sounds with each step. The insectoid creature carried data tablets and recording equipment for the meeting. Other species on the ship included the rock-like granite people who worked as engineers and the floating jellyfish-like drifters who handled communications. "The human ship is approaching now," said Kliktar in his buzzing voice. "They call it New Horizons, and it carries only 12 crew members." Zexthara nodded and looked through the viewing port as a sleek silver ship approached their docking bay. The human vessel looked simple compared to other species' ships. No massive weapons visible on the outside, no heavy armor plating, no threatening designs carved into the hull. It looked almost peaceful, which surprised Zexthara because he had read that humans came from what the galaxy called a death world. The docking process took only a few minutes, and then the airlock opened with a soft hiss. Captain Jake Morrison stepped through first, followed by 5 other humans. Zexthara studied them carefully as they approached. They looked so ordinary compared to other species. No natural weapons like claws or fangs, no thick armor-like skin, no extra arms or special abilities that he could see. They were just medium-sized creatures with soft pink skin and small eyes. "Welcome aboard Harmony's Light," said Zexthara in his most formal voice. "I am Zexthara of the Kepler Diplomatic Corps, and this is my assistant Kliktar, Captain." Morrison smiled and extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. "Thank you for having us. I'm Captain Jake Morrison, and this is my crew. My security chief, Lisa Grant, our chief scientist, Dr. Paul Martinez, engineer Sam Collins, medic Dr. Amy Watson, and communications officer Ben Taylor." Zexthara shook the captain's hand and noticed how firm the grip was. Human hands felt stronger than they looked. The other humans also shook hands with him and each had the same confident grip. They moved with easy grace as they followed him through the ship toward the main conference room. The conference room had been set up with a large oval table and chairs adjusted for different species. The humans sat together on one side while Zexthara and his team took seats across from them. A granite engineer named Stonewalker joined them along with a drifter called Gentle Current who floated near the ceiling. "This is truly a historic moment," said Zexthara as servers brought food and drinks. "Your species has achieved faster than light travel in record time compared to most civilizations. The Galactic Council is very interested in learning about human culture and capabilities." Captain Morrison nodded politely. "We're honored to be here and look forward to peaceful cooperation with all member species." The formal part of the meeting went well. They discussed trade agreements, cultural exchange programs, and scientific cooperation. The humans seemed friendly and reasonable about everything. They answered questions about their homeworld Earth and their rapid technological development. But Zexthara noticed they became vague whenever military topics came up. After the official business ended, they moved to a smaller dining room for a more casual meal. The atmosphere relaxed and conversation became more informal. Zexthara found himself genuinely curious about these new beings. They seemed so calm and peaceful, despite coming from a world that other species considered extremely dangerous. "I must ask," said Zexthara as they finished eating, "your planet has many predators and natural disasters according to our records. How did your species survive and develop such advanced technology so quickly?" Dr. Martinez smiled. "Humans are very good at adapting and solving problems. We learned to work together and use tools to overcome challenges." "Yes, but surely you had to fight sometimes," said Kliktar, his insect head tilting with curiosity. "All species must defend themselves." "What methods do you use in warfare?" The change in the humans was instant and subtle. Their postures shifted slightly, their eyes became more alert, and they exchanged quick glances. Captain Morrison's friendly smile remained, but something behind his eyes grew distant. "Well," said Morrison carefully, "humans prefer diplomatic solutions to conflicts. We believe most problems can be solved through negotiation and compromise." "Of course," said Zexthara, "but when diplomacy fails? How do your people typically kill their enemies in battle?" The silence that followed felt heavy. The humans all looked at their captain, who seemed to be thinking carefully about his words. Finally, Morrison spoke in a polite but firm voice. "I'm afraid that information is classified above my security clearance level. Military tactics and methods are restricted knowledge in human society." Zexthara blinked his large eyes in surprise. "Classified? But surely basic combat methods are common knowledge. Every species discusses their warrior traditions openly." Lisa Grant, the security chief, shook her head. "Our military doctrine requires special authorization to discuss, even. In general terms, it's not something we can share in casual conversation." "This is most unusual," said Stonewalker in his deep, rocky voice. "The Granite people are proud of our siege warfare techniques. The Drifters openly demonstrate their electrical combat abilities. Even the peaceful healers discuss their defensive strategies." Dr. Watson, the medic, spoke quietly. "Human military. Science involves concepts that require careful context to explain properly. Without that context, the information could be misunderstood." Zexthara found this response fascinating and frustrating at the same time. Every other species he had encountered was eager to share their combat abilities, often competing to sound the most impressive. The humans seemed almost embarrassed by the topic, or perhaps they were hiding something important. "Surely you can tell us something general," pressed Kliktar. "Do you use energy weapons, projectile weapons, biological warfare?" "Psychological attacks." Captain Morrison's expression became even more guarded. "I really cannot discuss specific categories of military technology or strategy. That level of detail requires authorization from much higher in our command structure." "Higher than a starship captain?" asked Zexthara with surprise. "Much higher," said Morrison simply. The conversation moved to other topics after that, but Zexthara's mind kept returning to the human's strange secrecy. What could be so sensitive about basic military information that even a diplomatic captain couldn't discuss? Every species had weapons and tactics. What made human methods so different that they needed to be classified at such high levels? As the evening ended and the humans returned to their ship, Zexthara made a mental note to investigate this mystery further. Something about humanity's reluctance to discuss warfare didn't match their peaceful demeanor. Perhaps these seemingly ordinary creatures were hiding capabilities that would surprise the entire galaxy. The diplomat watched the human ship depart through his viewing port, and wondered what secrets lay behind their polite smiles and classified military doctrine. 3 days had passed since the humans left, but Zexthara could not stop thinking about their strange response to his questions about warfare. The blue-skinned diplomat sat in his private quarters reviewing recordings of the meeting, watching the subtle changes in human behavior whenever military topics arose. Each time he noticed something new that made him more curious. Kliktar entered the room carrying a stack of data tablets. "I have compiled all available information about human military history from the public databases," he said in his buzzing voice. "The results are most peculiar." Zexthara took the tablets and began reading. Human historical records showed constant warfare throughout their development, with conflicts on every continent of their planet. They had fought with swords, spears, guns, explosives, aircraft, and advanced technology. The sheer variety of their weapons and tactics was impressive. But something was missing. "Where are the detailed battle reports?" asked Zexthara. "Every other species keeps extensive records of their greatest military victories. These files contain only basic dates and outcomes. That is what makes it strange," replied Kliktar, settling his insect body on a nearby perch. "The humans appear to have fought more wars than any species in recorded galactic history, yet they have removed most tactical and strategic details from their public records." Zexthara continued reading, and found that human military academies existed on their home world, but their curricula were completely classified. Human soldiers underwent training programs, but the content of that training was restricted information. Even basic weapon specifications had been redacted from most documents. "This level of secrecy is unprecedented," muttered the diplomat. "The Krellian Empire proudly displays their battle tactics in museums. The Vorthan Confederacy teaches their combat methods to children as cultural heritage. Why would humans hide their military knowledge so completely?" A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. Captain Morrison's face appeared on the communication screen, still wearing his friendly diplomatic smile. "Good morning, Zexthora. I wanted to follow up on our meeting and see if you had any additional questions about human culture or technology." "Actually, yes," said Zexthora eagerly. "I have been researching human history and found your military secrecy quite unusual." "Could you perhaps explain why your people classify such basic information?" Morrison's smile flickered for just a moment. "As I mentioned before, human military doctrine involves sensitive concepts that require proper context. We prefer to focus our diplomatic discussions on peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. But surely historical battles can be discussed," openly pressed Zexthara. "Your species fought the Battle of Gettysburg over 400 years ago. Certainly such ancient tactics pose no modern security risk." The captain paused, and Zexthara could see him choosing his words carefully. "Human military history contains elements that other species might find disturbing or difficult to understand without proper cultural background. We learned long ago that detailed discussions of our combat methods can create unnecessary fear or mistrust." This answer only made Zexthara more curious. "Fear of what exactly? Are human weapons particularly destructive compared to other species?" "It's not about the weapons themselves," said Morrison slowly. "It's about the concepts behind their use. Human military thinking operates on principles that don't translate well to other cultures." After the transmission ended, Zexthara decided to approach individual crew members separately. Perhaps they would be more willing to share information in private conversations. He sent requests for cultural interviews to several humans, claiming to be writing a report on interspecies cooperation. Dr. Paul Martinez was the first to respond. The human scientist agreed to discuss his homeworld's history and culture. They met in a neutral conference room aboard a space station between their two ships. Martinez seemed relaxed and happy to talk about human scientific achievements and social development. "Your species made remarkable progress in technology," said Zexthara. "From primitive agriculture to space travel in only a few thousand years." "What drove such rapid advancement?" "Necessity mostly," replied Martinez with a laugh. "Humans are very good at solving problems when we have to. Our planet taught us to adapt quickly or die. Yes, I understand your world is quite dangerous." "How did early humans defend themselves against predators and hostile environments?" Martinez's expression became more guarded. "Well, we developed tools and learned to work together in groups. Cooperation has always been key to human survival. But what about warfare between human groups? Surely your people fought each other for resources and territory. That's getting into military history," said Martinez carefully. "I'm a scientist, not a military historian. Those topics are outside my area of expertise." Zexthara tried a different approach. "As a scientist, you must have studied human psychology and behavior. What makes your species so effective at combat?" The doctor paused for a long time before answering. "Human psychology is complicated. We have capabilities that evolve for survival on our world, but those same capabilities can be applied to other situations. The military applications of human psychology are classified for good reasons." "What kind of good reasons?" Martinez looked uncomfortable. "The kind where detailed explanations might give people nightmares." He refused to elaborate further and ended the interview shortly after. Zexthara made notes about the phrase "give people nightmares" and wondered what human psychology could possibly contain that would be so disturbing. The next interview was with engineer Sam Collins. The human was friendly and eager to discuss ship design and technology, but became evasive when asked about military engineering. Human ships are built for exploration and peaceful purposes, he insisted. Though Zexthara noticed that even the civilian vessel, New Horizons, had unusual structural reinforcements and redundant systems that seemed more suited for combat than exploration. Dr. Amy Watson, the human medic, proved equally unhelpful. She discussed human biology and medicine in great detail, but clammed up when asked about battlefield medicine or trauma treatment. Medical ethics prevent me from discussing techniques that could be misused, she said, though Zexthara suspected. There was more to it than professional ethics. Communications Officer Ben Taylor was perhaps the most interesting interview. When asked about human communication methods during warfare, he accidentally revealed more than he intended. Human military communications use concepts that most species don't have words for, he said. We coordinate in ways that other cultures find incomprehensible. What kind of ways? Asked Zexthara eagerly. Taylor realized his mistake and became defensive. That's classified information. I shouldn't have said anything about it, but surely you can explain in general terms. Do humans use telepathy, advanced technology, some kind of hive-mind connection? No, nothing like that, said Taylor, then stopped himself. I really can't discuss it further. After all the interviews, Zexthara felt more confused than ever. The humans weren't hiding specific weapons or technologies. They seemed to be hiding something more fundamental about how they approached warfare itself. Their secrecy appeared to cover concepts and methods rather than just equipment. Klicktar joined him in reviewing the interview recordings. Perhaps the humans are simply primitive and embarrassed by crude fighting methods, suggested the insectoid assistant. Their technology is advanced, but their military tactics might be barbaric. I don't think so, said Zexthara thoughtfully. Their responses suggest sophistication, not primitiveness. They speak of concepts that other species cannot understand, of methods that might cause fear or nightmares. This sounds like advanced thinking, not crude barbarism. Then what are they? Hiding. I'm beginning to think they're not hiding weakness, said the diplomat slowly. I think they're hiding strength. The question is why a species would conceal their military capabilities when joining a galactic community that values defense and security. Zexthara made a decision. If the humans wouldn't share their secrets voluntarily, he would have to investigate through other means. Somewhere in the galaxy there had to be evidence of human military action that would reveal the truth about their classified methods. The blue-skinned diplomat began planning a deeper investigation into recent galactic conflicts, looking for any sign of human involvement. If humans were as militarily capable as their secrecy suggested, surely they had used those abilities somewhere. All he had to do was find the evidence. Zexthara spent the next week diving deep into galactic conflict databases, searching for any trace of human involvement in military actions. His diplomatic credentials gave him access to restricted files that regular citizens could not view. What he found made his curiosity grow into something approaching concern. The Krellian uprising had lasted for 3 brutal years with no end in sight. The rebel forces held strong defensive positions and seemed prepared to fight indefinitely. Then human peacekeepers arrived to provide humanitarian aid to civilian populations. Within 2 weeks, the rebel leaders suddenly announced they were ready to negotiate. The uprising ended with a peace treaty that satisfied all parties. Most peculiar, muttered Klicktar as he reviewed the files. The Krellian rebels had sworn blood oaths to fight to the death. What could have changed their minds so quickly? Zexthara pulled up the detailed reports from that period. Human aid workers had indeed arrived with medical supplies and food for civilians. They had established refugee camps and provided security for relief operations. On the surface, everything looked like standard humanitarian work, but the timing was suspicious. Look at this, said Zexthara, pointing to a timeline display. The human aid convoy arrived on day 1. On day 3, several rebel commanders reported equipment failures and supply shortages. By day 5, their communications network started experiencing mysterious glitches. On day 8, their main weapons depot suffered an unexplained fire. By day 14, they were begging for peace talks. Coincidence, perhaps, suggested Klicktar, though his buzzing voice carried doubt. Perhaps, agreed Zexthara, but he was already pulling up files on the Vorthan territorial dispute. The pattern was similar. Two neighboring systems had been fighting over mining rights for months. Both sides had deep cultural reasons for their claims and showed no willingness to compromise. Human mediation specialists arrived to help with negotiations. The first week of human involvement showed no progress in talks. Both sides remained stubborn and hostile. Then things began to change in subtle ways. Vorthan military leaders started. REPO strange mechanical problems with their warships. Communications between fleet commanders became unreliable. Supply lines experienced unexpected delays. Most disturbing of all, several key military leaders began suffering from what doctors called stress-related health issues. The Vorthans are known for their mental discipline, said Zexthara thoughtfully. Their warriors train from childhood to resist psychological pressure. What kind of stress could affect their military commanders so severely within 10 days? Both sides in the dispute were eager to accept the human mediation proposals. The final peace agreement was signed with unusual speed and enthusiasm from all parties involved. The humans departed immediately after. Claiming their work was done, Zexthara found similar patterns in 4 other conflicts where humans had provided aid or mediation services. In each case, the fighting had stopped abruptly after human arrival, usually within 2 weeks. The official reports always credited improved communication and humanitarian concerns, but the underlying details suggested something more complex. I need to speak with someone who was actually present during these conflicts, decided the diplomat. Official reports may not tell the complete story through his diplomatic contacts. Zexthara arranged a private meeting with Commander Vexhai, a Krelian officer who had participated in the uprising. They met at a neutral space station where conversations could remain confidential. The scarred Krelian warrior agreed to discuss his experiences in exchange for certain diplomatic favors. The humans were very polite and helpful, said Vexhai, in his gruff voice. They provided medical care for our wounded and food for hungry civilians. Our leaders appreciated their humanitarian efforts, but the uprising ended very suddenly, pointed out Zexthara. What changed your people's minds about fighting? The Krelian's expression darkened. Strange things began happening after the humans arrived. Our weapons would malfunction at critical moments. Our encrypted communications somehow became known to our enemies. Our supply convoys got lost using navigation systems that had worked perfectly for years. Did you suspect sabotage? Of course we did, but we could never find evidence. No human was ever caught near our equipment. Their aid workers stayed in designated civilian areas and followed all protocols. Yet our military capability degraded rapidly. Zexthara leaned forward with interest. What about the psychological effects on your commanders? Vexhai shuddered visibly. That was the worst part. Our leaders began reporting nightmares and anxiety attacks. They became paranoid and indecisive. Some claimed they felt like they were being watched constantly, even in secure locations. Our strongest warriors became afraid of shadows. Did you ever determine the cause? No, said the Krelian grimly. The humans offered to provide counseling services for stress-related disorders. Our commanders who accepted their help recovered quickly, but they also became strong advocates for ending the conflict peacefully after the meeting. Zexthara felt more puzzled than ever. The pattern was clear but inexplicable. Human involvement consistently led to rapid conflict resolution, but through methods that seemed almost supernatural. Equipment failures, communication breakdowns, psychological pressure, and mysterious health issues all pointed to capabilities far beyond simple humanitarian aid. Zexthara decided to confront Captain Morrison directly about these incidents. He arranged another meeting aboard the space station, claiming to need clarification about human diplomatic procedures. Morrison arrived with his usual friendly demeanor, but Zexthara noticed the captain's eyes seemed more alert than before. I have been researching recent conflicts where humans provided assistance, said Zexthara without preamble. The results show remarkable success in ending violence quickly. I'm curious about your methods. Morrison's smile became slightly strained. Humans have good diplomatic training, and we understand the importance of addressing root causes of conflict, yes. But the speed of resolution seems unusual. The Krellian uprising ended within days of your arrival. How do human diplomats achieve such rapid results, experience, and patience? Replied Morrison. But his tone had become more guarded. We study each situation carefully and find approaches that work for the specific cultures involved. Zexthara decided to be more direct. Commander Vexhai described equipment failures and psychological effects among rebel leaders. Do human mediation techniques include technical and mental pressure tactics? The change in Morrison was immediate and subtle. His posture shifted slightly. His eyes became more focused, and his hands moved to rest casually on the table in a position that could quickly become defensive. The transformation lasted only a second before his diplomatic mask returned. I'm not familiar with the specific details of that operation, said Morrison carefully. Human peacekeeping and mediation efforts follow strict ethical guidelines. We do not use coercive methods or harmful tactics against any parties in a conflict. But surely you can explain in general terms how human conflict resolution works. What makes your method so effective where other species have failed? Morrison was quiet for a long moment, seeming to weigh his words carefully. Human diplomatic success comes from our ability to understand the deeper motivations behind conflicts and address those underlying issues. We are good at finding solutions that make continued fighting seem unnecessary. How do you make fighting seem unnecessary to warriors who have sworn blood oaths? By helping them understand that their true goals can be achieved more effectively. Through cooperation than conflict, replied Morrison. But Zexthara could see the strain of carefully chosen words in his expression. And the equipment failures and psychological effects that occur during human mediation efforts. Conflicts create stress for everyone involved, said Morrison evenly. Equipment may fail under pressure and leaders may experience anxiety when facing difficult decisions. These are natural consequences of warfare, not results of outside interference. Zexthara knew he was not getting the complete truth. But Morrison's responses revealed something important. The captain was not denying that. Equipment failures and psychological effects occurred, only that humans directly caused them. The distinction suggested that human methods operated through indirect means that maintained plausible deniability. After Morrison left, Zexthara sat alone reviewing everything he had learned. The humans possessed capabilities that could end armed conflicts rapidly and decisively, but they were extremely careful to hide those capabilities behind humanitarian cover stories. Their classification of military methods was not about protecting specific weapons or technologies, but about concealing approaches to warfare that other species would find disturbing or incomprehensible. What kind of military doctrine requires such complete secrecy, he wondered aloud. What methods could be so effective yet so terrible that an entire species agrees to hide them from the Galaxy? Kliktar entered the room with another stack of data tablets. I have found additional information about human military academies, he announced. The course listings are fascinating and terrifying. Zexthara took the tablets eagerly, hoping for new insights into the mystery of human warfare. What he read made him realize that his investigation had only scratched the surface of humanities. The alarm klaxons woke Zexthara from deep sleep with their harsh wailing sound. Emergency lights bathed his quarters in red as the ship's automated systems announced a security breach. The diplomat rushed to his command console and saw displays showing multiple unidentified vessels approaching the research station at high speed. Pirates, announced Kliktar as he scuttled into the room on his 6 legs. 15 ships armed with military-grade weapons. They are demanding surrender and threatening to destroy the station. If we resist, Zexthara quickly dressed and headed for the command center. The corridors filled with aliens from various species, all moving toward emergency stations or evacuation areas. Through viewing ports he could see sleek black ships surrounding the research facility, their weapon arrays glowing with deadly energy. The station's commander, a massive granite named Boulderheart, stood at the central control panel coordinating defensive efforts. His rock-like features showed grim determination as reports flowed in from security teams throughout the facility. "Status report," called Zextara as he entered the command center. "Not good," rumbled Boulderheart in his deep stone voice. "The Raiders have superior numbers and firepower. Our defensive systems are designed for research protection, not military assault. They've already breached sectors 7 and 12. What about the human ship?" asked Zextara, suddenly remembering that New Horizons had returned to the station the previous day for supply transfers. "Captain Morrison has offered assistance," replied Boulderheart. "I told him to evacuate his people instead. We cannot ask civilians to fight trained pirates, but they agreed to help anyway. Yes, though I do not see what 12 humans can accomplish against this force." Zextara rushed to the observation deck to watch the battle unfold. Through the transparent walls, he could see security forces from various species taking defensive positions throughout the station. The attackers moved through corridors with professional efficiency, overwhelming the defenders with superior weapons and tactics. Then he noticed something strange. The pirates had stopped advancing in several sections where they had been making steady progress moments before. Their communications chatter, which the station's sensors were monitoring, had changed from confident orders to confused questions. "What is happening in Sector 9? Called one pirate leader over the radio. "Team 3 was supposed to secure that area 5 minutes ago. Team 3 is not responding," came the reply. "Neither is Team 7 or Team 12. Send backup teams." To investigate, Zextara watched his tactical display as additional pirate forces moved toward the areas where their comrades had gone silent. But these reinforcements also stopped communicating within minutes of reaching those sectors. The pirates' confident advance began to falter as more teams disappeared without explanation. "This is impossible," growled the pirate commander's voice over the intercepted communications. "Ghosts do not kill trained soldiers. Find out what is happening, sir. We are trying to contact our missing teams, but getting no response. Their equipment appears to be functioning, but they are not answering. Are they dead or captured? Unknown, sir, but sensor readings show life signs in those areas. Something is moving through the ventilation systems." Zextara felt a chill run through his blue skin. The human crew of New Horizons consisted of only 12 people, yet they seemed to be systematically neutralizing pirate forces throughout the massive station. How was this possible? The pirates' communications became increasingly frantic as more teams vanished without a trace. Their tactical coordination broke down as commanders became afraid to send soldiers into areas where other forces had disappeared. The confident assault turned into a paranoid defensive action as the raiders tried to secure the areas they had already captured. "I want motion detectors in every corridor," ordered the pirate leader. "Post guards at all intersections. Nothing moves without being seen and reported." "Sir, we are seeing movement on the sensors, but when our people investigate, they find nothing. It is like the station itself is hunting us." "Stations do not hunt people, you fool. Find the humans and eliminate them." "We have tried, sir, but they are not where our sensors indicate they should be. They appear to be moving through areas that should be impossible to access." Zextara realized he was witnessing something far beyond normal combat. The humans were not simply fighting the pirates, they were systematically destroying their ability to function as an organized force. Every pirate team that encountered them was neutralized without any apparent fighting, leaving behind only confused and frightened survivors. The station's security chief, a four-armed helix named Twistmind, appeared on the communication screen looking bewildered. "I am monitoring the human activities through our internal sensors," he reported. "Their movements make no tactical sense according to standard military doctrine. They split into small groups and move through areas that should offer no strategic advantage, yet they are winning," observed Boulderheart grimly. "Yes, but I cannot understand how. They avoid direct confrontation, yet somehow eliminate opposition forces. It is as if they understand something about warfare that the rest of us do not." Over the next hour, Zextara watched the pirate assault completely collapse. The raiders went from confident attackers to terrified survivors huddled in defensive positions. Their communications devolved from tactical orders to desperate pleas for extraction. "We need to retreat," called one team leader. "Half our forces are missing, and we do not know what happened to them." "This station is cursed." "Negative," replied the pirate commander, though his voice shook with uncertainty. "We complete the mission, or we do not return to base alive." "Sir, respectfully, we are going to die here if we stay." "These humans are not normal soldiers. They fight like demons. All species can be killed if you use the right methods. These cannot. Sir, they are like smoke and shadows. They appear where they should not exist and vanish when we try to engage them." The final phase of the battle lasted only 20 minutes. The remaining pirate forces attempted a coordinated withdrawal to their ships, but found their escape routes blocked by obstacles that had not existed hours earlier. Their vessel systems began experiencing the same mysterious failures that Zexthara had read about in previous conflicts involving humans. "Engineering reports massive system failures throughout the fleet," reported a panicked pirate technician. "Navigation, weapons, life support, communications, all degrading simultaneously. How is this possible? Unknown, sir, but our ships are becoming non-functional. We estimate complete system failure within 30 minutes, the pirate commanders. Final transmission was a surrender offer. His forces would evacuate immediately if allowed to depart safely with their remaining functional ships. The station's authorities agreed, eager to end the conflict without further casualties. As the battered pirate fleet limped away from the research station, Zexthara made his way to the docking bay where Captain Morrison and his crew were returning to their ship. The humans looked exactly as they had before the battle began. No visible weapons, no armor, no signs of combat stress or fatigue. "Captain Morrison," called Zexthara as he approached the group. "I must ask what exactly happened during the fighting." Morrison turned with his usual diplomatic smile, but Zexthara could see something different in the human's eyes. A cold calculation that had not been there before, like looking at a predator that was momentarily at rest. "The station's security forces performed admirably," replied Morrison in his polite tone. "My crew provided minimal assistance with evacuation." "Procedures and crowd control, minimal assistance," repeated Zexthara incredulously. "The pirates' entire assault collapsed after you became involved. Their forces disappeared without explanation. Combat situations are chaotic," said Morrison calmly. "Enemy forces often become confused and disorganized when facing determined resistance. Fear and panic can spread quickly through attacking units. But how did 12 humans neutralize teams of trained combat soldiers?" Morrison was quiet for a moment, his expression becoming more serious. "Zexthara, some knowledge creates fear rather than understanding. Some capabilities are classified not to hide weakness, but to preserve the peace that allows different species to coexist." "What does that mean?" "It means that human methods of warfare are not just different from other species, they operate on principles that most cultures find psychologically disturbing. We classify our military doctrine because detailed knowledge of our methods would make cooperation with other species much more difficult." Zexthara stared at the human captain, finally beginning to understand the real reason for humanity's secrecy. They were not hiding primitive tactics or advanced weapons. They were hiding an approach to conflict that was so alien to other species that it would fundamentally change how the galaxy viewed humanity. "You asked me how humans kill," said Morrison quietly. "The answer is classified because the truth would terrify every other species in the galaxy. Some secrets exist to protect not just information, but relationships and trust." As the human crew departed for their ship, Zexthara realized that his investigation had revealed something he was not prepared to fully comprehend. Human warfare was not just classified, it was incomprehensible to non-human minds. The galaxy's newest members possessed capabilities that defied conventional. 2 days after the pirate attack, Zexthara received an encrypted message marked with the highest level of galactic security clearance. The communication came directly from the Galactic Council Intelligence Division, requesting an immediate private meeting aboard their classified vessel Deep Current. The diplomat had never been contacted by Intelligence services before and the timing made him nervous. The intelligence ship looked like an ordinary cargo freighter from the outside, but internal scans revealed sophisticated monitoring and defense systems. Zexthara was escorted through multiple security checkpoints by guards from different species, each more heavily armed than the last. The meeting room at the ship's center had no windows and walls that hummed with electronic shielding. Director Sharp Mind entered the room alone, her crystalline resonance body casting rainbow patterns on the walls as she moved. The crystal being's voice chimed like musical notes when she spoke, but her tone carried serious authority. Zexthara of the Kepler Diplomatic Corps, you have been investigating human military capabilities for the past 2 weeks. Your inquiries have triggered multiple security alerts throughout our monitoring systems. I was simply trying to understand our newest galactic members, replied Zexthara carefully. Their secrecy about military matters seemed unusual compared to other species. Unusual is an understatement, said Sharp Mind, her crystal facets shifting to deeper hues. Human military doctrine is classified at levels that exceed our normal security protocols. What you witnessed during the recent pirate attack represents only a fraction of their actual capabilities. Then why allow them into the galactic community? If they pose such a threat, Sharp Mind's crystalline form pulsed with complex light patterns that indicated deep concern, because the alternative was worse. Let me show you what we discovered when humans first achieved faster-than-light travel. The room's walls transformed into holographic displays showing star charts and battle recordings. Zexthara saw footage of human vessels engaging in conflicts throughout their local stellar region. But these were not the diplomatic missions he had researched. These showed humanity's military operating at full capacity against threats the galactic community had never encountered. The Devourers, explained Sharp Mind as images showed massive dark ships consuming entire star systems, an extragalactic species that had eliminated 17 civilizations before reaching human space. Every galactic military force that encountered them was completely destroyed within hours. I have never heard of this threat, because humans eliminated the Devourers so completely that most species never learned they existed. What you are seeing is the only remaining evidence of humanity's first major military action after developing interstellar travel. The recordings showed human fleets engaging enemies that outnumbered them 1,000 to 1. But instead of conventional space battles, the humans seemed to dismantle their opponents through methods that defied understanding. Devourer ships simply stopped functioning. Their crews abandoned vessels that had become uninhabitable through unknown means, and their command structures collapsed into chaos and retreat. How did they accomplish this? Asked Zexthara in amazement. That is exactly what we asked when we first made contact with humanity, replied Sharp Mind. The answer led to the classification protocols you encountered. Human warfare operates on principles that most galactic species cannot psychologically process. Sharp Mind activated additional displays showing psychological evaluation reports from various species, who had been briefed on human military doctrine. The results were disturbing. Krellian warriors suffered panic attacks, granite engineers experienced recursive logic failures, drifters lost their ability to maintain coherent thought patterns, and even the logical helix species developed neurotic behaviors. Human military science is not just about weapons and tactics, explained the intelligence director. It encompasses total warfare concepts that treat conflict as a multidimensional problem requiring simultaneous action across physical, psychological, technological, and temporal domains. They think about war in ways that other species literally cannot comprehend. Temporal domains, repeated Zexthara with confusion. Humans plan military operations on timescales that span generations while simultaneously executing moment-to-moment tactics. They consider the psychological impact on enemy children who will not be born for decades while calculating ammunition expenditure rates for battles happening in real time. Their strategic thinking operates on levels of complexity that overwhelm non-human cognitive processes. Zexthara began to understand why human military methods were classified So the secrecy is not about protecting human advantages, but about protecting other species from knowledge that would damage them. Psychologically, exactly, confirmed Sharp Mind. When humans joined the galactic community, they agreed to severely limit their military capabilities and classify their warfare doctrine to prevent psychological trauma among allied species. What you witnessed during the pirate attack was humans operating under extreme restrictions designed to appear normal to galactic observers, but they still completely dominated a superior enemy force, using perhaps 1% of their actual capabilities, said Sharp Mind grimly. If humans employed their full military doctrine against any galactic species, the psychological impact alone would render the target population unable to function as a civilization. The physical destruction would be secondary to the mental devastation. Sharp Mind showed additional files detailing humanity's integration into galactic society. The process had required extensive negotiations about acceptable levels of human military activity. Humans had agreed to classify their combat methods, restrict their weapons technology, and limit their strategic thinking to levels that other species could tolerate. The irony is that humans are naturally peaceful, explained the intelligence director. Their classification of military knowledge represents their desire to coexist with species who would be terrified by complete knowledge of human capabilities. They hide their strength to preserve friendship. What about the conflicts where humans provided assistance? Asked Zexthara. The rapid resolutions and mysterious equipment failures, humans operating under severe limitations, using minimal applications of their actual warfare concepts. Even those restricted operations were sufficient to end conflicts that had seemed impossible to resolve through conventional means. Zexthara reviewed everything he had learned about humanity over the past weeks. Their polite diplomatic manner, their reluctance to discuss military topics, their careful classification of combat knowledge, and their devastating effectiveness when forced to fight all made sense in this new context. So when Captain Morrison said their methods were classified to preserve peace, he was being completely honest, confirmed Sharp Mind. Human military doctrine is classified as an act of kindness toward every other species in the galaxy. Full knowledge of their warfare capabilities would fundamentally alter how every civilization views conflict, strategy, and the nature of intelligence itself. Are humans truly that dangerous? Sharp Mind's crystalline form dimmed to darker hues. Dangerous implies malicious intent. Humans are not dangerous, they are incomprehensible. Their approach to warfare transcends what other species consider possible. They have weaponized concepts that most civilizations use for peaceful purposes, and develop strategic thinking that operates outside normal parameters of logic and time, yet they choose to limit themselves, because they understand that knowledge of their true capabilities would end galactic civilization as we know it, not through conquest or destruction, but through the psychological collapse that would occur if other species fully comprehended what human military science actually encompasses. Zexthara sat in silence, absorbing the implications of what he had learned. Humanity's greatest weapon was not any technology or tactic, but their willingness to hide their true nature to preserve the sanity and stability of their neighbors. What happens now? He asked finally. Now you understand why some questions should not be asked and some classifications exist to protect not just secrets, but the psychological well-being of entire civilizations, replied Sharp Mind. You asked a human how they kill. The answer was classified because the complete truth would give nightmares to every thinking being in the galaxy, and I will never know the details. Be grateful for that ignorance, said the intelligence director. Seriously, some knowledge is too dangerous for sapient minds to process? Human military doctrine represents the pinnacle of strategic thinking evolved on a death world by a species that treats problem-solving as an art form. The galaxy is safer when those methods remain classified. As Zexthara returned to his ship, he realized that his investigation had taught him the most important lesson of his diplomatic career. Some truths were too terrible for understanding, and some secrets existed not to hide weakness, but to preserve the peace that allowed different species to coexist in friendship and trust. He decided that, Captain Morrison had been right from the beginning. Some classifications protected not just information but sanity itself. The human method of killing would remain classified, and the galaxy would sleep better for not knowing the answer to questions that should never be asked. Zexthara deleted his research files.